Welcome to The Spacious Place with Andrea Best, brought to you by CKJ Live. The Spacious Place is where you get to be who you really are. Not what your experiences say, not what your role as a wife or a mom says, not even what your job title says or doesn't say. You get to be who you were fearfully and wonderfully created to be. Join me as we explore the woman inside, the one who longs to be set free. Let's talk with women who journeyed and found themselves surrounded by endless amounts of opportunity. And at this point, they're unstoppable. So if you're ready to be you, truly you, make room, grab a pillow, and welcome to The Spacious Place with Andrea Best. Welcome to The Spacious Place with Andrea Best. Ladies, this is the season 1 finale. Can you believe it? It has gone by super fast. This is, again, the last episode in the season. And then we're going to take a couple weeks off, but we have been preparing. I have been preparing some very great episodes for next season, and I'm super excited. And so as I thought about what I wanted my last episode to be about, I thought I would kind of take you guys back to kind of where it all started for me in this journey of being a podcaster, and kind of how it taught me to just step out, what it means for me to step out on faith, like what that means for me today. And just kind of take you along on the journey. So I didn't just necessarily wake up and say, hey, I want to start my own podcast. That was never something that I was interested in. Honestly, I always loved listening to podcasts, but that just it really never crossed my mind to start my own show. But that's how I knew that God was in it, when things happen like that. When I'm completely surrendered in one area, trying to be obedient, trying to give all I have with what God has given me, He opens up a door that I didn't even think could be open or needed to be opened. So I was completely focused on getting the messages of my children's books out to families. I have 2 children's books, Little Girl, Big Heart and Little Boy, Big Joy. One came out in October of last year, and the other one came out earlier of this year, the top of this year. And so I was just seeing that God was using my voice, in a way that I wasn't expecting Him to through a children's book, but He was using it nonetheless. He was using my love of writing. All of that. And then an opportunity was presented to me to be a part of a podcast team and to have my own segment. I was excited because it wasn't a foreign idea to me. I have graduated. I graduated from ISU with a degree in broadcast journalism. So it wasn't completely far-fetched for me to be a part of a podcast, and be a part of a podcast team and to work with other people. It wasn't a far-fetched idea. So with being presented with this opportunity to be a part of the team, I was excited, started to plan for it. And I was like, okay, God, if you give me this idea, I want to give it my all. Then God did something that I wasn't expecting at all. So I was then presented with the opportunity to create my own show. And I'm like, whoa, this is amazing. I was not expecting it. And then there's this decision that I have to make. So at that moment, I had to decide, are you all in? Like, that was the big question for me. Are you all in? All in meant to me, are you ready to step out? Are you ready to put in the work? Are you ready to plan? Are you ready to get out of your own head? Are you ready to create? Are you ready to be used? Are you all in? Y'all, I was like in a point where I'm like, okay, I have my children's books. I still got kids and a husband. I still have all of these other things that I'm doing. Can I be all in? I could feel, honestly, that this wasn't some little opportunity that came my way that was going to be, that was, I wasn't going to put out that many shows. That was going to be short-lived. I knew that it wasn't going to be that. And I knew it was a God thing. And I had to decide if I was going to be all in. And so I decided that I wanted to do that. The most important thing for me when starting the podcast was to let God lead. Because sometimes I can overthink, I can get in my own head, and wanting things to be perfect, I just never start. Or, I plan so much. And then when things don't go the way that I had planned, it discourages me or it frustrates me. And so I wanted God to completely lead. And so that meant me asking him, okay, God, you've given me this show. What should I name it? What should I talk about? Who should I talk about it with? I wanted this podcast to be God breathed, and I didn't want to move unless God said it was okay. In episode 1, I actually talked about how I had a completely different topic for the first episode than what I actually talked about. And the key word was I had the topic. I had decided, okay, this is what I want it to be about. This is what I want to talk about. This is how I'm going to structure it. And I practiced, and it just wasn't right. It wasn't coming off the way that I knew it could. And it wasn't until after I prayed and asked God, okay, you tell me, what I should be talking about, that I got my answer. I knew I would. But honestly, I was ready to wait for God to answer before I recorded that first episode. That's how much I wanted God to be, within the whole process. There were 4 words that I specifically remember that came to mind when I was presented with this opportunity. And they were 4 important things that kind of helped me to step out, to be all in, and really to let God lead. And they weren't like these profound things that came out of nowhere. It was words that I had already known. But it was like, okay, if you're all in, then you have to do these things. So let me give y'all the 4 words. Commitment. I had to commit myself to this podcast. I wanted to dedicate my time to this. I had to take it seriously. And as the more I put into it, the more I was going to get out of it. And I wanted to put everything I had into it to make sure that it was everything God needed it to be, that it was used in the way God needed it to be used. So the first thing was commitment. I wanted to commit myself to doing this and being all in. The second thing was consistency. We all know that when we're consistent with something, that something grows, and that can be good or bad. But I wanted to be consistent in putting out shows. I want to be consistent in letting people know about the shows. I wanted to make sure that I was giving all I had, and that meant being also consistent. The third word was creativity. I knew that in starting this podcast, this was going to give me such great opportunity to be creative. Starting something like this, a podcast, starting a business, doing anything takes some level of creativity. And I think I was most excited about being creative in the show topics, the guests, the way God wanted me to deliver some of the episodes. I wanted to create, I wanted to tap into that level of creativity that I had never really used before, which was exciting for me. God is a creator, and he's created us to be creative, and I think that it's doing him a disservice to not use that. And so I was just super excited to be able to be creative and to use like a creative bone that I had never tapped into before. And the fourth words, there are 2 words, but the fourth phrase was to be completely surrendered, which is everything. Like I said before, I wanted this thing to be God breathed. And I knew that the only way I could do that was to surrender it to God. God gives us these gifts, and it's only right that we kind of give them back to him. And like, okay, God, I know you've trusted me with this. Now I want to put out what I can, and I want to give all of that to you and leave the results up to you. Like that has been my saying for like the past 6 months. Okay, God, I'm going to do this, and I'm leaving the results up to you. You do with it as you want. And so being completely surrendered has made it so easy to do the first 3 things. to commit myself, to be consistent, to be creative. Being completely surrendered has allowed the space for God to do what God does, you know? And I think I wanted to mention these 4 words because we hear them all the time. But if we truly take them seriously and if we go all in with every one of these, God is bound to do some amazing things. Y'all, I am so excited for season 2. I have some really amazing topics and we are going even deeper. So this season, we talked about miscarriage. We talked about identity and motherhood, forgiveness, friendships, combating negative self-talk. That was one of my favorites. We talked about self-care, prayer, caring for ourselves in the midst of a pandemic, connecting with our spouses in the midst of a pandemic, building the relationship and understanding the relationship between mothers and daughters. There were so many topics that we touched on this season. And next season, like I said, we're going even deeper. We're going to be exploring things like inviting God into one of the most intimate parts of your marriage. We're going to be diving into what your life looks like after you've experienced a pregnancy loss. Y'all, that one is going to take me all the way in because I've experienced so much healing since our miscarriage. And I'm so excited just to share my experience and my journey and to talk with women who I know have experienced it as well. And just to make this a topic that is not taboo, that allows us to understand that we're not alone in this. So I'm very excited about that. And we're going to be talking about how to get things done when you got kids. Like we're even going there because it's a real topic and it's things that we need to talk about. Season 1 has truly shown itself to be a God thing. And I can't wait to see how he's going to breathe on season 2. I love you ladies so much. For the listeners who come back a week after week, who give me feedback, who are praying for me, I thank you so much and I love you guys. Until next time, this has been The Spacious Place with Andrea Best. You've been listening to The Spacious Place with Andrea Best, brought to you by CKJ Live. Psalm 118:5 says, "When hard pressed, I cried to the Lord. He brought me into a spacious place." Come back and join me as we make more room in our lives to be the women we were created to be. Let's live in the spacious place.